I am 92 years old. I have buried my wife. I have buried my friends. I have buried men who once called me their enemy. And I have buried the man I used to be, the one who wasted decades believing the world cared about his reputation. I stand at the edge now. I can measure the drop. And before I fall, I am turning back to speak to you, the one still dancing at the party, still pouring another drink, still saying tomorrow, because you are sleepwalking through your life. And I cannot leave without telling you that. The lie of infinite time. You carry this arrogant, comfortable delusion that you have time. You spend your days like they are pennies, like you possess an infinite vault of them, like the supply will never run dry. Let me correct your accounting. You are bankrupt. We all die. You know this in your head, but you do not know it in your bones. You do not feel the cold edge of mortality against your throat. If you did, truly did, you would not live as you do. Seneca warned you more than 2,000 years ago. You act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire. Read that again. You fear embarrassment more than death. You desire comfort more than meaning. You are, as Epictetus would say, a slave to appearances, while the one thing you actually own, your present moment, slips through your fingers like water. Think about that. A man born a slave, Epictetus, who owned nothing, who could be beaten and sold at someone else's whim, that man understood freedom better than most kings. He wrote, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And I ask you honestly, are you master of yourself, or are you a prisoner of your own delay? Because from where I stand, looking back across 9 decades, I see an entire civilization of people who have chosen the waiting room over the banquet hall. People who mistake planning for living. People who have constructed elaborate, detailed futures and forgotten to inhabit their present. That is the lie. The comfortable, seductive, deadly lie of infinite time. The story of Jack the Trap of Later. I need to tell you about Jack. Not because his story is unique, but because his story is yours, and I need you to feel that. Jack was my closest friend, sharper than me, better looking, richer, a shark in a world of guppies. We grew up together, started businesses together, buried our fathers together. There was nobody on this earth I knew better than Jack. I remember the night he said it. One of those nights that feels like it will never end. Cuban cigar, leather chair, the fire going in the corner. He leaned back, closed his eyes for a moment, and said, "Frank, 5 more years, that's the play. I grind for 5 more years. I hit the number, then I'm done. Then Mary gets her Italy. Then I learn to paint. Then finally, then I start living." Jack had a plan. Jack had a roadmap. Jack had a future he was negotiating with, as if mortality took appointments, as if the universe had agreed to hold his reservation. 3 days later, Jack walked out of his office building, grabbed his chest, and met the sidewalk before he knew he was falling. Massive heart attack, 42 years old. He never saw Italy. He never touched a brush to canvas. He never started living. He died in the lobby of his own existence, waiting for a door that was never going to open. I stood over his casket, and I understood something that has rotted inside me for 50 years. The tragedy was not that Jack died. Death is the contract we all sign at birth. The tragedy was that Jack treated his entire existence as a waiting room for a life he never actually entered. I cleared his desk the following week. His calendar was full. His inbox was screaming. His company replaced him in 14 days. His clients forgot his name in a year. The world kept spinning. It always does. Seneca wrote in his letters, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a great deal of it." Jack did not have a short life. He had a full life, full of postponements, full of deferred mornings and rescheduled conversations and dinners that never happened. And here is what haunts me. I see Jack in you. I see him in the way you say later. I see him in the way you postpone your life. like it is a bill you can defer indefinitely. I see him in your 5-year plan, your when the kids are older, your when I have enough, your when things calm down at work. I see him in the comfortable story you tell yourself that the real version of your life is just around the corner, just past this one obstacle, just on the other side of this one season. Jack thought the same thing, right up until the sidewalk. Your personal lies. You are telling yourself the same lie Jack told himself. The details are different, but the structure is identical. I will be happy when I get the promotion. I will take the trip when the children are grown. I will forgive my brother when he apologizes first. I will be present when the mortgage is paid, when the retirement account hits the number, when the timing is right, when life settles into something manageable. I will live when it is convenient. Let me give you a hard truth from a man with no future left. There is no later. There is only this breath. And if you are trading your now for a later that is not guaranteed, you are making the worst wager in the history of gambling. You are betting your one life, the only one you were ever given, on a promise that the universe has never made to you. Epictetus said it plainly. Some things are in our control and others not. Your past is not in your control. Your future is not in your control. This moment, this choice, this breath, this word you say or do not say is, and you are choosing to mortgage it to a future that may never arrive. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world at the height of Rome's glory, wrote this to himself, not for publication, not for posterity, just for himself. Think of yourself as dead. You have lived your life. Now take what's left and live it properly. He was an emperor. He commanded armies. He held the fate of millions in his hands. And the reminder he needed every morning was the same reminder you need right now. Stop pretending you have forever. You do not. The lies we tell ourselves are not dramatic. They are quiet, reasonable, entirely sensible sounding. That is what makes them so lethal. They do not feel like lies. They feel like wisdom, like patience, like responsibility. But responsibility to what? To a future self who may never arrive? To an audience of strangers who will have forgotten your name before your headstone is cut? Wake up. The lie is killing you quietly. The garbage of things. Let us talk about your possessions. I watch your generation accumulate with a kind of religious devotion. You purchase what you do not need with money you do not have to impress people you do not even like. And somehow you have convinced yourself that this is success, that the size of your house and the badge on your car are evidence that your life has meant something. I live in one room now, a bed, a chair, a photograph of Eleanor. I once owned a mansion with rooms I never entered. I once drove cars that cost more than houses. I once filled a garage with machines whose original purpose I have long since forgotten. And I tell you, with the terrible clarity that comes from standing where I stand, it is all garbage. Not metaphorically, literally, garbage. I have attended more funerals than I have birthdays. I have never, not one single time, seen a U-Haul trailer following a hearse. When you die, your children will hire a stranger to enter your home and throw 90% of your precious possessions into a dumpster. The remaining 10% they will sell at a yard sale for quarters, while strangers haggle over your taste. That is the complete accounting of your materialism. Future trash, present anxiety, past regret. Epictetus wrote, "Seek not the good in external things, seek it in yourselves." He understood, as only a man who had owned nothing could understand, that the accumulation of objects is the accumulation of chains. Every object you own owns a piece of your attention, your worry, your identity. Every object you cling to is a small death of the self you could have been. Marcus Aurelius slept on a military cot and wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. The most powerful man in the world chose simplicity. He chose presence. He chose to remember that he was dust and would return to dust, and that the only thing that mattered was how he walked the road back to it. You are walking that road right now. Every single one of us is. The question is whether you walk it dragging a cart full of things that were never yours to keep, or whether you walk it with your hands open and your eyes up. The empty trophy. I need to tell you about victory. Businessman of the Year, my city, big banquet, black tie. My name on the program, on the award, on the lips of people who had never once invited me to dinner before that evening. I walked to that podium and the applause washed over me like warm water. I felt like a god. I felt like I had won something permanent, something that would last. I drove home holding that trophy. The house was silent. Eleanor was asleep upstairs. My children were asleep in their rooms. I sat at the kitchen table alone, drinking scotch, staring at a piece of glass that had cost me everything I actually wanted, and I understood with a clarity that made me want to smash that trophy against the wall that the applause had stopped before I reached my car. The people in that room did not love me. They admired my output. They respected my leverage. The moment I stopped producing, I would become invisible to them. And I did. The people upstairs, the ones who actually loved me, I had neglected for months to earn the indifference of strangers. I missed my son's varsity games to stay late at the office. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself he would understand. I told myself I was building something for him. I missed my anniversary dinner to close a merger that I now realize I cannot even remember the details of. The numbers, the terms, the name of the other company, all of it gone, as if it never happened. I missed Eleanor's eyes asking me to stay, and I chose to leave, again and again, because the office rewarded my presence and my family, being generous, patient, loving people, forgave my absence. I mistook their forgiveness for permission. That trophy is in a box somewhere. I do not know where. I do not care. But the memory of Eleanor's face when I told her I could not make dinner, the particular way her eyes dropped before she smiled and said, "I understand," that is here. That stays. That is the interest on a debt I can never repay. Marcus Aurelius, a man who could have drowned in his own glory, wrote, "Receive without pride, relinquish without struggle." He knew that titles are borrowed, that victories are temporary, that the empire outlasting you is not your victory. It is simply the next chapter of a story that was never only yours. You believe your career is your legacy. It is not. It is a transaction. You are selling hours of your life, hours you will never, ever recover, to construct someone else's monument. If you died today, your position would be posted online before your obituary was written. Your desk would be cleared by Friday. Your name would be misremembered by Christmas. I am not telling you not to work. I am telling you not to worship work. There is an enormous difference. Do not worship at the altar of your career. It will not love you back. It will not hold your hand when the lights go out. It will not whisper your name as you leave. The only wealth, what you give. So what remains? If money is illusion, if career is transaction, if possessions are future garbage, what is left? I will tell you. The only things you get to keep are the things you gave away. The love you gave, the time you gave, the patience you extended when you had none left, the connection you forged when you had nothing to gain. I sit in this chair and I do not replay my business deals. I do not remember the contracts, the negotiations, the victories, the market cycles, the quarterly reports. None of it comes to me. None of it visits me in the night. What comes to me is this: Sunday mornings with Eleanor, the coffee going cold because we were talking, her laugh, the way she tilted her head when she was about to say something she found funny, the specific texture of 47 years of mornings with the same woman who chose to love me in spite of everything I gave her reason not to. What comes to me is my daughter's laugh when she was 3, the particular pitch of it, the way it made the room brighter without doing anything at all. I did not earn that laugh. I was simply present for it. Presence was the only price. What comes to me is a stranger I helped push his car from a snowbank one February morning in 1963. Our hands were frozen. Our breath mingled in the cold air. He looked at me with gratitude that needed no words. I never saw him again. I never knew his name. And that moment has visited me more times in this final chapter of my life than the closing of any deal. That is the only wealth, that is the only currency that appreciates over a lifetime. That is the only legacy that outlasts the grave. Seneca wrote, "The greatest blessing of a rational nature is that it makes us content with what we have." But I tell you something more. The greatest grace of a human life is that it makes us treasure what we give, not what we earned, not what we accumulated, what we gave freely, fully, without keeping score. Gave freely, fully, without keeping score. The Stoics called this oikeiosis, the natural affection that binds us to others, that pulls us toward one another, that makes us at our best extensions of each other's flourishing. That is your real inheritance, not your stock portfolio, your son's memory of your patience, your friend's memory of your loyalty, your stranger's memory of your kindness, given without calculation and received without debt. The morning you stayed when you could have left. The phone call you made when silence would have been easier. The "I love you" you said first, before you knew whether it would be returned. That is what remains. That is what lasts. 3 Stoic practices for living here is my challenge to you. Here is the honest, no-delay strategy for whatever remains of your life. Number 1, kill your ego. You are paralyzed by the fear of looking foolish. You do not start the business. You do not ask the person out. You do not speak the uncomfortable truth to the friend who needs to hear it. You do not take the leap. Why? Because you are afraid of what they will think. Let me free you. Nobody is watching you. They're too busy fearing their own foolishness, managing their own anxiety, performing for their own imaginary audience. You are the protagonist only in your own mind. To everyone else, you are background noise, a face in the crowd, a story they will forget by dinner. Stop letting the phantom of other people's judgment freeze you. Their judgment will rot in the same ground they will. Marcus Aurelius wrote, and I want you to sit with this, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own. You are sacrificing your only life to please an audience that is not even watching. You are editing yourself for people who have not thought about you since the last time you were in the same room. You are shrinking your existence to fit the imagined comfort of strangers. Stop. Take up the space your life deserves." Number 2, practice the last time. This is a Stoic technique, and if you truly absorb it, it will alter your existence from the inside out. Every time you do anything at all, remind yourself that one day you will do it for the last time. One day you will lift your child for the last time. One day you will kiss your partner for the last time. One day you will have dinner with your parents, and you will stand up from the table and hug them, and you will walk to your car, and you cannot know that it was the final one. You do not know when that day is. It could be 10 years from now. It could be this week. If you live with this knowledge in your bones, not as fear, but as clarity, you will never take a moment for granted again. You will taste the coffee. You will hold the hug 3 seconds longer. You will listen instead of waiting for your turn to speak. You will stay at the table a little while longer because you understand at last that the table is the destination. Epictetus wrote, "Never say about anything, 'I have lost it, but I have returned it.' Nothing belongs to you permanently. The people you love, the days you are given, the health you carry, all of it is borrowed. And when it is returned, the question is whether you used it fully while it was in your hands." Number 3, wake up. I am 92. My back is a map of pain. My eyes see ghosts where there are none. The light in the morning, which I once ignored entirely, is now the most beautiful thing I see in a day, because I know it is not guaranteed to come again for me. But you hold the golden ticket. You have your health, you have your strength, you have mornings that belong to you, and evenings that stretch ahead with possibility. And you are spending them scrolling through a screen, numbing yourself into a slow, comfortable coma of distraction, absorbing the anxiety of strangers, consuming the performances of people pretending to live while you watch and also pretend. Stop. Go outside. Feel the wind until it hurts your face. Look at the sky until you remember how small your problems actually are. Call your mother while she still recognizes your voice. Forgive your enemy, not for their sake, but because you no longer have the time or the energy to carry the weight of old hatred. It is too heavy, and the road ahead of you is shorter than you think. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, confine yourself to the present. Not yesterday's wound, not tomorrow's worry. The present, this breath, this sky, this person in front of you who is also going to die, who is also afraid, who is also hoping someone will see them clearly. Be that someone while you still can. Closing, the Stoic choice. We are all going to die. It is the only promise that has never been broken, not once in the history of the world. Every life that has ever been lived has ended. Every empire, every hero, every villain, every ordinary person who got up and made coffee and drove to work and went home and did it again. All of it ends. But most people never actually live. They exist, they persist, they stay safe and stay comfortable and stay within the edges of what is known and manageable and acceptable. They wait, they defer, they negotiate with mortality as if it were a creditor willing to restructure the debt. And then they expire, having never arrived, having never entered the room they spent their whole lives walking toward. Do not be Jack. Do not wait for the 5-year plan that becomes the 10-year plan that becomes the deathbed plan. Eat the meal that costs too much. Buy the ticket that empties your savings. Say I love you first, especially when your voice shakes. Take the trip before you are ready. Make the call before you have figured out what you want to say. Forgive before you feel like it. Show up before you are certain. Seneca, who knew he was going to die and said so plainly, wrote, "Begin at once to live and count each separate day as a separate life. Not each decade, not each chapter, each day, this one. The one you are in right now, reading this, breathing, still here, still with time remaining. Count this day as a life. Make it mean something. Can you hear it? That sound beneath everything, beneath the noise of your obligations and your plans and your screens, that is your life running, not someday, not in 5 years, now, this second, this minute, this particular and unrepeatable afternoon of your one existence. Do not let it run out empty." Epictetus said, "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." You cannot control the length of your life. You cannot control what comes for you. You cannot negotiate the terms of your departure. But you can control, you alone can control what you do with the light that is left. I have told you what I know. I have given you what 50 years of mistake and clarity have taught me. I have no agenda. I have no product to sell. I have only this. the view from the edge, and the hope that you will use it before you reach it yourself. I am tired now. Go live.